Ethan Cole adjusted the tool belt around his waist as he stepped onto the docking platform of the Saravel research station. The Terran expedition had been sent to repair the communication relay, but nothing about the mission had prepared him for the sight of the Saravelians. Their silver skin shimmered in the pale light of the crystal towers, and delicate bioluminescent patterns ran across their limbs, glowing brighter with every subtle movement. Their eyes, large and liquid, seemed to peer into the deepest thoughts of anyone nearby. And Ethan couldn't help but feel nervous. He was a simple engineer, used to fixing circuits and replacing panels, not navigating alien emotions. And yet there she was, Lyra, the young Saravelian linguist assigned to assist him. She stood taller than any human, with an elegant posture and a calm aura that made Ethan feel both fascinated and awkward at the same time. "Hello, human?" she said telepathically, her voice echoing gently in his mind. Ethan had learned early in the mission that Saravelians often spoke directly through thought rather than sound. It was subtle, sometimes startling, and entirely overwhelming. Hello," Ethan replied, fidgeting. He wondered if she could sense how much he hated feeling nervous in front of others. Apparently she could. A faint glow appeared on her arms, shifting from soft blue to a bright pinkish hue. "You think I will judge you?" she asked. There was no anger in her tone, only curiosity. "No, I mean maybe," he stammered, realizing immediately that it sounded like a bad lie. Lyra tilted her head slightly as if she found his awkwardness amusing. "Your mind is unusual, chaotic, bright," Ethan swallowed. That sounded less like a compliment and more like a warning. He had read the briefing about Saravelians. They were telepaths and could experience human thoughts directly if they focused. But he had assumed most humans would be careful about what they thought. Not him. His mind was a jumble of circuits, half-finished songs, and random daydreams. "I don't think anyone has said that about me before," he muttered. Lyra's glow intensified. "I enjoy it." Ethan froze. That single sentence, transmitted directly into his mind, made his stomach twist. Enjoyed his thoughts? He tried to imagine what she might be referring to, but the truth was terrifying. His mind was full of weird things, clumsy fantasies about heroism, imagining himself saving the ship in ridiculous slow motion, and some very embarrassing thoughts about Lyra herself. He cursed silently. Don't think about her. Don't think about her. But the harder he tried, the more his mind betrayed him. He imagined her gracefully leaping over machinery, fixing a panel with perfect precision, the patterns of her bioluminescent markings flickering across her arms. He could practically see the faint shimmer of light reflecting in her eyes. Lyra laughed. Ethan recognized it immediately, though it was a sound inside his head rather than through the air. It was melodic, like a wind chime dancing in a soft breeze. "You cannot hide your thoughts, human," she said. I wasn't hiding anything," Ethan protested, though even he knew it was a poor lie. "You were trying," she replied, still laughing softly. "And it is delightful." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, heat rising to his cheeks. He hated how honest he was being, but it was too late. The telepathy was already reading him, picking through every random thought he had ever had. Over the next several days, the crew noticed something unusual. Ethan was being followed everywhere by Lyra, though she claimed she was assisting in repair coordination. In reality, she seemed fascinated by the small, mundane patterns of his thoughts, how he imagined cooking breakfast, how he imagined himself tripping over cables, how he imagined improbable, heroic scenarios while repairing machinery. One afternoon, while repairing the main communication relay, Ethan sighed as he tried to align a stubborn panel. Lyra floated beside him, her gaze soft and calm. Without warning, she reached out and he felt the gentle intrusion of her mind into his. "Your thoughts are amusing," she said, almost whispering inside his head. "Even the ones you do not wish to share." Ethan froze, clutching the panel. "Lyra, please don't read that part." She ignored his plea with a gentle smile. "I do not judge, human. I simply observe. And I like it." He wanted to argue, but words failed him. There was something about her voice in his mind that made him feel at ease. Even as his embarrassment piled up, somehow even the most ridiculous and clumsy thoughts felt safe with her. It was not all humor. When the magnetic storms hit Saravel, massive surges of energy that could tear a ship apart, Lyra insisted on reading his mind to coordinate repairs faster. At first, Ethan felt exposed, as though every stray thought might betray his mistakes. But the necessity of the situation forced him to trust her. Together, they moved like a single organism. Lyra anticipated his next action before he even moved, guiding him with her telepathy. His hands followed her silent instructions, aligning wires, connecting circuits, and stabilizing the main relay just before the storm's peak. For a brief moment, he felt a surge of pride. He had not only survived, but thrived under her guidance. After the storm, Ethan collapsed onto the nearest platform, breathing heavily. Lyra hovered nearby, her glow soft and warm. "You were impressive," she said, her thoughts brushing his mind like a gentle caress. You liked that?" he asked hesitantly. "I liked that you trusted me," she replied simply. Ethan's heart raced. Trusting her. That had been the hardest part. To allow her to navigate the chaos of his mind, to see his thoughts unfiltered. It had been terrifying and yet liberating. Over the following days, their sessions became routine. Crew members joked about Ethan's mind exposure therapy, but for him it was more than that. Lyra's curiosity was genuine, and her fascination with his human way of thinking was never mocking. She found delight in the small, awkward, imaginative pieces of his mind that no one else ever noticed. One evening, as the twin moons of Scifi bathed the platform in soft blue light, Ethan allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. He realized that he was no longer nervous around Lyra. Instead, he felt a strange warmth, a connection he couldn't entirely define. She had seen him at his clumsiest, at his most ridiculous, and she had not recoiled. Instead, she had smiled, laughed, and continued to explore his thoughts as if they were precious. Lyra, in turn, began showing small signs of her own curiosity. Her bioluminescent patterns would flicker more brightly around him, subtle colors that seemed to reflect her growing emotional interest. Even the senior crew noticed it, the way she lingered, the way she sought him out, the faint glimmer of excitement whenever he approached. It was during one particularly tense repair session that Ethan realized how much he had come to rely on her presence. The relay panel had jammed mid-repair, sparks flying dangerously. Without thinking, he lunged forward, trying to stabilize it. A thought flashed through his mind. "I hope she's not worried." Lyra's mind reached back instantly. "I am concerned, human, but I trust you." That single thought, perfectly aligned with his, sent a shiver down his spine. They worked together seamlessly, neither speaking aloud, their movements and thoughts perfectly synchronized. When the panel finally locked into place, they stepped back simultaneously, breathing heavily, and exchanged a glance, or at least, the telepathic equivalent of a glance. For the first time, Ethan felt truly seen. And it was not just understanding he felt, it was recognition. She understood him, in ways no human ever had, and more importantly, she accepted him. That night, as he lay in his small cabin aboard the Erebus Dawn, Ethan's mind replayed the day's events. The storm, the repairs, the silent coordination, but also the small, quieter moments. Her laughter in his head, the warmth of her curiosity, the way her glow reflected her moods like a living mirror. A smile crept across his face. For the first time, he thought maybe having his thoughts read wasn't such a terrible thing. Not with her. Maybe, just maybe, it could even be enjoyable. He drifted off to sleep, unaware that Lyra was doing the same in her own quarters, her mind lightly touching his as she reviewed the events. She too felt a thrill, a connection she had not anticipated, and a strange hope that perhaps this human was unlike any being she had ever met. The storm was over, the repairs were complete, but a far greater invisible bond had formed, one that neither of them could ignore, and neither would ever be the same because of it. The morning light of Scifi spilled over the crystalline towers, casting long reflections across the platforms. Ethan Cole stretched as he stepped out of his cabin, trying to shake the sleep from his limbs. Ever since the storm, his thoughts kept returning to Lyra, the young Cerevelian linguist who had somehow burrowed her way into both his mind and his curiosity. He had thought the novelty would fade, but each day, he found himself anticipating her presence more than he expected. Lyra was already waiting near the main relay panel, her silver skin glowing faintly in the early light. The bioluminescent patterns along her arms flickered gently as she observed Ethan's approach. It had become a habit for her to check his moods before even speaking, sensing his thoughts and responding without a word. The first time it had happened, he had panicked. Now he felt oddly comforted. "Good morning, human," she said telepathically, her voice calm and melodic. You appear rested. I am, mostly, Ethan replied, rubbing the back of his neck. And you? Ready for another day of chaos? Her glow brightened slightly, a color he had learned meant amusement. I am always ready for your chaos. They shared a small, silent laugh. Over the past few weeks, their partnership had grown beyond simple cooperation. Lyra had begun to anticipate Ethan's actions during repairs, and he had grown more confident in trusting her guidance. But now a new challenge was emerging. The Galactic Council, the governing body overseeing interstellar alliances, had scheduled an inspection of the station. Their arrival meant that any unusual behavior between humans and Cerevellians would be scrutinized. Ethan's thoughts spiraled as he adjusted his tools. Great. They're going to see us working together. They might think. I don't even know what they might think. Lyra sensed his anxiety instantly. Do not fear, human. We will manage it together. Her words, soft in his mind, eased him more than he expected. He realized that her presence had become a source of calm, even when he felt exposed or unsure. The human mind was chaotic, and she had adapted to it without judgment. That alone was remarkable. The inspection began mid-morning. 2 officials from the Galactic Council arrived, humanoid but with sharp angular features and expressions that rarely softened. They walked along the platform, observing Ethan and Lyra as they synchronized the calibration of a delicate sensor array. The officer's eyes narrowed at their seamless coordination. Impressive, one of them muttered aloud. But human and Cerevellian cooperation at this level is unusual. Keep in mind, emotional interference can compromise efficiency. Ethan glanced at Lyra. Her glow flickered gently, a reassuring signal he had learned meant she was confident. He took a deep breath and focused on the work, blocking out the official's scrutiny. Lyra, however, did not hide her amusement. She glanced at him briefly, her mind brushing against his in a playful manner. You are doing fine, human. Even under observation. Despite the pressure, the inspection went smoothly. The officials noted the repairs, the precise alignment, and the calmness under stress. When they finally left, Ethan exhaled deeply, relief flooding him. You handled that well, Lyra said, her telepathy warming his thoughts. I think so, he replied, smiling weakly. Thanks to you. Her pattern shimmered, a subtle mix of pride and curiosity. You trust me too easily, human. It is unusual, Ethan chuckled. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. As the days passed, the bond between them deepened. Ethan shared his thoughts freely now, knowing that Lyra would respond with understanding rather than judgment. She, in turn, revealed glimpses of her own mind, glimpses of her fascination with humans, the way she struggled to understand the spontaneity and humor in their behavior, and the way her people often overlooked the richness of imperfect emotions. One afternoon, while calibrating a sensor deep within the station, a sudden alarm sounded. A localized magnetic surge threatened to overload the system, and Ethan reacted instinctively, moving to stabilize the panel. Lyra mirrored his movements, their coordination flawless. Yet this time the surge was stronger than any before. Sparks flew and the station's lights flickered as the alarms blared. Ethan, focus! Lyra's voice entered his mind sharply but without panic. He nodded, working quickly to stabilize the circuit. We can do this, he thought, and her mind responded almost immediately. Yes, human. Trust yourself. Together, they prevented the surge from causing permanent damage. When the alarm ceased, both were panting, but a sense of accomplishment filled them. The bond they had formed was no longer just about coordination. It was about trust, understanding, and mutual respect. That evening, Ethan found himself wandering the observation deck, staring at the twin moons rising over Cerevel's crystal spires. He could sense Lyra approaching, her glow soft and gentle. You think too much, she said playfully, her thoughts brushing against his. I can't help it, he admitted. I keep thinking about everything. And you? Her glow deepened, warm and inviting. About me? Yes, he said honestly. You make it easier. Somehow. Even when my mind is a mess, you make it. Okay. Lyra floated closer, the light from her patterns bathing him in a calm radiance. Human, you are strange, but in a good way. Your thoughts are honest, raw, and interesting. They make me feel alive in ways I did not expect. Ethan felt a surge of relief and awe. Her words, her mind touching his own, were more meaningful than anything he could say aloud. He realized that the connection they shared was rare, perhaps even forbidden among her people. Yet he could not deny the happiness it brought him. The tranquility did not last. A communication arrived from the council, warning Lyra that continued emotional bonding with a human could be considered contamination and might have severe consequences. She read the message and sighed, her glow dimming slightly. "I must limit our connection," she said softly. Ethan's chest tightened. "Limit it, why? We've been working together. This isn't dangerous." "It is dangerous for me," she admitted. "My people have rules, emotional entanglement with non-telepaths. It is forbidden. Too much exposure could affect my mind permanently." He stepped closer, desperate. "But we've already formed a bond. It's not hurting anyone, and I care about you." Lyra hesitated. Her glow flickered between uncertainty and longing. "I care about you too, human. More than I should. But I cannot ignore the warnings." That night, Ethan could not sleep. He replayed every moment he had shared with Lyra, every coordinated repair, every laugh shared in silent telepathy. He realized that his feelings had grown beyond curiosity or admiration. He trusted her, relied on her, and perhaps loved her. The next day, a crisis struck. A minor quake shook the station, destabilizing one of the outer platforms. Crew members were at risk, and quick action was required. Lyra, sensing the urgency, reached for Ethan's mind. "We must work together," she thought. Ethan nodded, his mind clear. They moved in perfect sync, rescuing the crew and stabilizing the platform. But in the chaos, Lyra's glow flickered dangerously. Exposure to his unfiltered thoughts had reached a level that could be risky. Ethan, realizing the danger, made a decision. He connected with her mind fully, sharing only the calmest, most controlled parts of his thoughts, keeping her safe while still coordinating the rescue. Lyra followed his lead, and together they prevented catastrophe. After the event, both collapsed, breathing heavily. Lyra's glow returned to normal, faintly shimmering with exhaustion and relief. "Human," she said, her thoughts brushing softly against his. "You saved more than the crew today. You saved me from my own limits." Ethan smiled weakly. "And you saved me from feeling like I had to hide everything in my mind. You made me feel safe, Lyra." Her patterns shimmered brighter than ever, a mixture of pride, affection, and gratitude. "Perhaps we can continue carefully. My people may not approve, but I am willing to risk it." For the first time, Ethan felt a surge of hope. Against rules, against warnings, against the expectations of her people, they had formed a connection stronger than either could have anticipated. As the moons rose over Saravel that night, Ethan and Lyra sat on the observation deck together, their minds lightly touching. Words were unnecessary, their thoughts intertwined, not chaotic now, but harmonious. Humor, trust, curiosity, and quiet admiration flowed freely between them. Ethan realized that this bond, fragile, risky, and entirely unexpected, was worth everything. And as he stared at the glowing patterns on Lyra's arms reflecting the starlight of Saravel, he understood something profound. Connection was not about perfection, rules, or even approval. It was about trust, understanding, and the courage to let someone truly see your mind. Lyra's final thought to him that night echoed softly in his own. "Keep thinking, human. Your thoughts are more alive than the stars." Ethan smiled, closing his eyes. For the first time, he welcomed the chaos of his own mind. And for the first time, he knew he was not alone.